welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're going on a pretty profound journey into what you might call sacred geography. We're not just looking at a travel guide, we're actually analyzing source material that serves as a really detailed spiritual roadmap for a seeker. And it's focused specifically on the final inner path of a major pilgrimage site. So, our source material, Pilgrimage Through the Three Sacred Doors, it gives these incredibly specific instructions. We're going to try and mentally place you right in the middle of it all. Imagine you're standing near the Kulasekara Mandapam. This is the spot where the inner pradakshina, that's the careful, dedicated walk around the shrine, begins. It takes us right around the Sree Koval, which is the central sanctuary where the Lord resides.
And this is really a deep dive into sacred sequencing. I mean, the mission here is to decode the architecture of devotion itself. The forces make it very clear that this journey isn't about, just getting to the destination quickly. It's about preparing yourself through these deliberate, measured steps. We have to understand the architectural checkpoints, the sheer weight of the history, and most importantly, the profound meaning that's embedded in the ritual viewing of the main deity through those three unique doors.
Okay, let's unpack this journey. The sources start by talking about something very practical, the queue, something you'd find at any major pilgrimage site. But they don't treat it like it's just a logistical problem. They actually stress that the slow-moving path is integral for what they call silent contemplation. It forces you to physically slow down so your mind can catch up.
That distinction is vital. If the focus was just on efficiency, the path would be designed for speed, right? But instead, the design actually forces introspection. This slow pace is, it's the first stage of purifying your mind before you even reach the divine presence. It makes the waiting time itself part of the spiritual preparation.
Right. And as you're moving along this contemplative route, the path dictates specific stops you have to make before the grand climax. The first detail we come across is the Navagraha Mandapam. We're told to look to the left, where the ceiling is carved with the 9 planetary deities, the Navagrahas. And a simple acknowledgement here is believed to bring good fortune or to neutralize negative cosmic influences.
And that's an acknowledgement of the cosmic hierarchy. You start by recognizing the forces that govern our world, the earthly and celestial realms, the cycles, time, fortune. You do that before you move toward the supreme controller of all those forces. It grounds the seeker in the reality of this whole universe.
Okay, so you have this sort of passive acknowledgement of the cosmos, but then immediately after that, the sources point to a much more demanding stop. The Narasimhaswamy shrine, also called Thekadam. It's a small structure, but the tradition is incredibly explicit. You have to offer prayers here first, and these prayers are specifically to seek courage and protection.
This is one of the most intellectually compelling insights from the source material, I think. I mean, why just moments before you view the ultimate form of rest and cosmic contemplation, Lord Padmanabha reclining, why are you commanded to seek protection from Lord Ugra Narasimha, the fierce man-lion incarnation of Vishnu?
Yeah, that's a fascinating duality. You're moving toward a deity who is all about deep rest and quietness, but first you're told to encounter the most energetic and aggressive manifestation of the divine.
Precisely. The path dictates seeking strength before you receive grace. The sources imply that this spiritual task of approaching the supreme deity isn't passive at all. It requires intense spiritual fortitude. You need the courage to face your own inner demons, which is symbolized by seeking the protection of the fierce Narasimha. You have to be spiritually fortified, equipped with courage and protection before you can engage in the highest form of devotion or surrender to the restful Lord.
So that makes the sequence an active spiritual strategy, not just a passive walk. And speaking of active participation, the sources also deal with the logistics because the path has to keep moving. They note this is where you can get your arcana tickets for special prayers or offer ghee for the lamps, but they reinforce that golden rule.
Be mindful of the collective flow. Right, and the emphasis on not holding up the line is very telling. Even the administrative steps, like collecting a ticket or making a quick offering, are integrated into a spiritual framework that demands this communal awareness. Your personal devotion is, of course, paramount, but it can't override the collective spiritual movement. It's a subtle lesson in balancing individual focus with, societal respect.
So we continue our circumambulation, and now we move past these preparatory shrines and all the logistics. And this is where we hit a structural, historical, and deeply symbolic centerpiece, the Ottakal Mandapam. It's a high platform right in front of the Sree Koval. Why is this platform given so much prominence?
Well, structurally, it is magnificent. Its name, Ottakal Mandapam, literally means single stone hall, and the sources highlight it's famously carved from one colossal piece of granite.
The whole thing.
The whole thing. That scale alone gives it immense sacred significance. And functionally, it's where the major abhishekams, the ritual washings of the deity, are performed.
Okay, so it's the central operating platform for the highest temple rituals. But what's crucial here is that the general pilgrim's queue, it passes around this single stone platform. You don't actually set foot on it, this exclusion. It naturally suggests some kind of boundary or a sacred distinction.
It's more than a distinction. It's a line drawn between general devotion and supreme consecrated surrender. And this is where the sources deliver a really remarkable historical detail. They reveal a profound tradition. Only the former Maharaja of Travancore is permitted to prostrate fully on this specific spot, lying prone, touching his forehead to the ground.
Only the former Maharaja. That's incredible. In a spiritual place designed for all pilgrims, why is the single most significant act of devotion reserved for a royal figure? What's the context behind this exclusivity?
Well, we have to connect this back to history. The Kingdom of Travancore famously performed a ritual called Sree Padmanabha back in the 18th century. This is where the ruler formally surrendered the entire kingdom to Lord Padmanabha, and from then on they ruled only as the Lord's servant. So the Maharaja wasn't really a king, he was a representative, a caretaker.
That is critical context. So his unique privilege isn't just a royal honor, it's a physical reenactment of dedicating an entire geopolitical entity.
Exactly. His single, full prostration symbolizes the dedication of the entire kingdom, its land, its wealth, its people. It signifies total, complete surrender, political, physical, and spiritual, right at the very heart of the sacred space. It elevates the Otako Mandapam from just a physical platform into a point where earthly sovereignty surrenders to divine sovereignty. It marks the boundary.
We've sought courage, we've recognized cosmic order, navigated the collective movement, and paused at this physical point of absolute state surrender. This whole sequence has meticulously prepared us for the central moment, the darshan itself.
And this is the climax. We are now standing before the Sree Koval, facing this extraordinary 18-foot-long idol of Lord Padmanabha, reclining on the cosmic serpent Anantha. The sheer scale and presence are just. They're overwhelming. But the sources emphasize the architectural command here. The idol is intentionally viewed not through a single panoramic window, but through 3 separate narrow doors.
Why fragment the view like that? I mean, if the goal is to get this divine sight, why make the pilgrim literally piece together the body of the deity?
Because it's a consciously designed theological exercise. The 3 doors map the body of the deity to specific cosmic principles, and this forces the pilgrim to understand the Lord in 3 distinct but interconnected metaphysical sections. You're actively solving a divine puzzle, one section at a time.
Okay, let's start with the first door. What are we meant to focus on here?
The first door reveals the head and the upper body. The pilgrim sees the Lord's face, his crown, his majestic chest, and crucially, there's a Siva lingam placed symbolically beneath his outstretched hand. This is the viewing point for greetings and for focusing on the divine consciousness.
The inclusion of the Siva lingam is so fascinating. You have Vishnu reclining, but the symbol of Shiva is right there, beside his hand.
It signifies the unification of the supreme energies. The source material points toward the concept of Harihara, which is the combined form of Vishnu and Shiva. So viewing the head through this door is an acknowledgement that the functions of creation, preservation, and dissolution are all unified in this single resting form. It's comprehensive theology delivered in a single, silent glimpse.
Right. And then you have to move smoothly, because we know the queue is pressing, and shift your focus to the second door. This one centers the creation story.
Exactly. The second door is focused on the metaphysical center, the Lord's abdomen. What you see is the golden lotus stem emerging directly from his navel, and seated upon that lotus is Lord Brahma. This view represents the absolute origin of the manifest universe.
And this directly explains the deity's name, Padmanabha.
That's right. Padma meaning lotus, and Nabha meaning navel. This specific door reveals the source of his title and his primary function as the preserver from whom active creation emerges. So while the first door dealt with the unification of power, Harihara, the second door deals with the process of emanation, how the universe unfolds from the supreme being while he rests. It's the origin point of all existence.
That deepens the context so much. So we've seen consciousness and power from door 1 and the origin of creation from door 2. That brings us to the final segment, the third door.
The third door reveals the divine feet of the Lord. And the sources call this the point of ultimate surrender and refuge. So, if the head represents divine power and the navel represents creation, the feet represent the final destination for the devoted soul. It's the humble point where the pilgrim submits completely.
It completes the whole theological arc then. You acknowledge the source of power, you recognize the origin of the cosmos, and you conclude with this act of total personal submission at the feet.
And we have to, again, acknowledge the physical constraints of this. The sources are brutally practical about this. The viewing through each door is incredibly brief. We're talking just a few seconds.
Just a few seconds.
Yeah, and this is crucial to the spiritual design. That time constraint forces immediate, intense focus on those three distinct principles. You have to synthesize the meaning quickly before you're moved on.
So the architecture itself demands a higher level of presence. You can't just passively absorb the deity. You have to actively construct the vision and the meaning, one fragmented piece at a time. It's an intellectual and a spiritual challenge that's posed by the very structure of the shrine.
It is a remarkable piece of ritual design. The entire process is structured to transform the seeker. You begin by seeking active courage and protection with Narasimha. You encounter the historical weight of surrender at the Otakal Mandapam, and you culminate in this focused three-part theological understanding: power, creation, and ultimate refuge. Every single step, even the brevity of the darshan, has profound theological weight intended to impact the pilgrim.
And we've seen how that sacred architecture forces the pilgrim to consciously piece together the whole meaning of the deity, one door at a time, moving quickly but with intense focus. It's such a sharp contrast with the deep, permanent surrender symbolized by the Maharaja's full prostration.
That contrast between the brief, intense viewing of the general pilgrim and the single, total historical surrender of the king on that one stone, that really is the enduring lesson of this deep dive. It shows the different scales of devotion.
If the former Maharaja's full prostration on the Uttakal Mandapam symbolized the dedication of an entire kingdom, an entire life to the Lord's service, it does raise a powerful question for us. I mean, what small symbolic act could we perform in our own daily lives that represents a similar total dedication, to a principle or a goal or a relationship that we value highly, something you commit to fully without any reservation that represents your highest purpose? A wonderful thought to leave with. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the inner path of devotion and architecture. We encourage you to keep exploring the ways that structure informs meaning and to keep learning.